Hi, I'm Traveling John, and I'm going to travel and sketch. Join me on the adventure. This is a continuation of our trip to Europe. We concentrated on visiting those places that you see in bold type. So far, we have visited Copenhagen, Leiden with Amsterdam, Paris, Barcelona, and now we are in Varenna on the shores of Lake Como. It was a real challenge to decide what to sketch on this adventure. As you can see, I decided, and we're going to see more wonderful sights today, and I'm going to finish up that color sketch with regards to this area. So enjoy again this vignette of photographs that I took. As you can see, I really enjoyed taking photographs in Varenna. I took a lot of them, and I hope you enjoyed it. Now, a friend and I were just talking today about photography and how it's changed. And I can remember when, during the film era, where we had to take film pictures and then get them processed and have prints made, that we were so afraid of making mistakes and having it be a very costly venture. But now with digital photography, it's so much better. So I'm really enjoying today and the process of doing photography and not worrying about issues like that. Now, this again is the sketch that I did in the last vlog, an ink line. And today's process is going to be adding color to this sketch via the computer, not on the actual sketch itself. And one of the first things I did to do that is to use the line illustration that I made just roughly of the photograph, and I used it as a guide for the ink line sketch. And I'm going to be using this with regards to color. Now this is on a overhead transparency. Some of you may not be familiar with what an overhead transparency is. It was actually used for overhead projectors when I was back in school, but today it may not be used quite as much. And you can make these by getting the film right in a stationery store and print either with a laser or an inkjet or even a copier your line drawing so that you can follow it on a light table. So my situation was I put this transparency on a light table, and then I put another piece of paper over it and did a pastel, and a very soft pastel coloration of where I wanted the particular colors to be in this illustration. I finished coloring with pastels on the paper over the transparency, and at this point I'm just softening the color to get the desired effect. And the next process I'm going to take you through is what I do on the computer after I put both the pastel and the ink line in my software program. This is the Inkline Sketch. I've incorporated it into my Photoshop software on my computer, so you're looking at my computer screen. And I want to show you the process I went through to actually already add the color to it. I have all these layers, and what I'm going to do is step by step show you how I applied color. As you can see, the black and white sketch is there with a white background. It's on multiply, so the white area is transparent to the background, so therefore you can see the pastel that I did through that. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change that black line because it's too cold and hard edged for this illustration. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to choose the black line artwork. I'm going to select that, select all, and then I'm going to nudge it so it picks it all. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to go down to the pastel area, and I'm going to copy that area that you see all those little ants running around. I'm going to edit, copy, and then I'm going to edit, paste special, paste in place. Now, I've already done this, but I want to show you the process I went through. So I select that. I'm going to image, adjust, hue and saturation, and I'm going to add color to that area, as you can see I've done. And then I'm also, I'm going to bring that up so you can see it, I'm going to darken it. See what's happening? So what I've done is I've actually picked up the color in that pastel, and I'm creating dark areas of it. So that is what I'm going to be using to start with. Okay, so I'm going to take that away, show that, I'm going to throw that away, delete layer, yes, and show you the darkened line that I did. Oops, that's not the right one. Here it is. That's very similar to one you just saw. Now the next thing I did is, once again, I chose that line artwork and I darkened it a little bit because I want some areas to be really dark, and I want like the very strong shading in the buildings there and parts of the dock, but I don't want it all to be that dark. For example, the hills in the background, I really like that they're a soft purple color, soft, cool, because that gives a feeling that they're a distance away, which of course they were. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding color to these beautiful buildings in here. And as you have seen in the photos of Varenna, they're very strong, warm colors. And so I'm going to be doing that. First of all, I made paths for each one. I'm going to start out with the orange. Okay, so I'm going to make selection of that. And all of these, I feathered them a little bit just so they weren't too hard edged, because I want this whole color part of this artwork to be soft. I don't want it to be really hard edged. So then what I did in the layers is I filled in that area with the orange that I was wanting to work with. Now, in this case, the orange buildings are on multiply. In fact, every one, I'm going to deselect it now, every one of the the pieces where I'm trying to increase certain colors, I always use the multiply mode for that layer. And I'll take it off. You can see the difference in adding extra color to those areas. The next thing I did was I went to the yellow and I created a path for that again. And again, a soft edge. And I filled those areas in with the yellow that I thought was fitting for those buildings. So now I'm getting those nice, strong, warm colors as the sun was going down on Varenna, and I'm going to continue adding more color to different areas of the sketch that I believe needed it. For example, the other area, well, before I go to that, I'm going to do the roofs, the terracotta roofs. And so once again, in every one of these cases, I made, now not in every one, but in the cases of the buildings, I used a path. And those of you that are familiar with Photoshop, you understand what I mean by a path. It's a selected area that I'm gonna fill color with. And so this is the color I added for the terracotta roofs. Now the next thing I want to show you is I wanted to add soft color tints to some of these areas because some of the trees aren't green enough. Some of the buildings aren't dark enough. So now in this case, I didn't use a path for that kind of a thing. In fact, what I did is instead on those areas that I wanted a soft tint or this soft color tints, all I did was use the lasso tool, which is their Photoshop tool, and I went around the areas that I wanted to increase a tint in. Now all those areas that I have a color tint in, they're also on multiply mode. So I had to choose the color I was happy with. For example, on those it would have been more of a dark green. On other areas where there's new foliage coming out, it was more of a lime green, especially in the ivy that's in this below the patio area of the restaurant. So that's the kind of effect that I brought into that. Enhancing the color in those areas according to what I felt was appropriate. Now, the dock here, because of the pastel, was not, the color came right through, and I want that dock to be more of a wood coloring, or light wood coloring. So what I did is I created a path for that. And I'm going to show you what I did in this case before I show you the artwork. Is first of all, I created another layer to do this in, but I want to show. First, I'm going to take off. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to show. I want to take off showing the selected edge, so you can see what I did. Image, adjust, hue and saturation. And what I did is, first of all, I took the saturation out of it. Okay, you see some of the color going out, and I raised up the lightness. Oops, it reacted too quickly to me. Okay. There we go, somewhere in there. To get the kind of effect I want. I want the sun to look more like it's hitting it, and I want to take out the greens and the other colors out, so I'm taking out the saturation. So I'm going to cancel this so it goes back to where it was before and show you what I desire to do. Now, I could also have adjusted the hue so that it was a little bit warmer too, but that's the end effect of what I was hoping to get. Now, one of the last things I did on this illustration was to highlight the whites. As you know, oh, actually, one other thing I forgot to show you is, in fact, two. I wanted to show you what I did with the shutters and also what I did with the blue sail. So with regards to the shutters, once again, where's the shutters? There you are. I made a selection of that. And once again, soft. So you can see all the shutters on the buildings, lots of shutters. There tended to be a theme of doing a green on most of the shutters. So what I did on that is I incorporated a green on the shutters. And I'm going to take the selection tool off. So you can see it's not a bright green, it's just a soft earthy green to go along with the warmth of the buildings. So now I wanted to show you the sail situation. Again, on the path, in this case, again, I made a path. And you can see that. In this case, I just used a paintbrush tool and I just colored in the blue that I wanted to use. It was around that. Let me just paint it in with a paintbrush so you can see what I did. It wants me, I'm going to use another layer so I don't have to mess with that. Okay, so we get, this is on some of the earlier work that I've done. I show you exactly how I do this. But in this case, I am skipping some of the work so you can see. Now, see, I'm just coloring in the blue on that extra layer. So I get the blue covering for the sail. I'm going to deselect that, delete that layer, and show you the one that I actually am using. So there we go. There's the blue. Now, what I was going to mention before, and I'm going to mention now, is I did the highlights, and that was a very important part of this illustration. The umbrellas on the restaurant, the canopies over the restaurants there, the white on the boats, sailboats, this sailboat too. And of course, the first thing I did, once again, is to make a path for that. So let's choose a path. There it is, white highlights, make selection, 7. And in this case, I'm going to go through this a little bit on a new layer before I show you that one. I'm going to do the new layer right up here near that one. New layer. Okay. I'm going to make sure I'm using white. And I'm going to, again, take off the looks of those little ants going around there. So you can see what I'm doing. Show, I'm not going to show selected edge. And I'm going to use a paintbrush again, and rather large, make it bigger. Okay, so I got the boat, and I'm going to use not 100% white, but I'm going to soften a little bit so I get a cool. Then I'm going to raise up it a little bit to get where I want a strong white. Strong white on the top. I'm going to put the white in on there, a little white on the sailboat. See what I'm doing? Now I'm going to delete that layer and show you what my finished, more careful illustration looks like. There we go. So, heavy white on the top of the boat where the sun's hitting it more as it's setting. A little bit more white on those, so they show up, and the white on the boat sitting on the beach. So that's pretty much the finished application of color. Of course, it took a lot longer than what I just showed you, but at least you can see the run through of what I did to add color to this ink line sketch. So this is the first time that I've used a medium pastels to add color to the ink line sketch. And this is a finished print of that work. And it's on museum quality archival paper. And if you're interested in seeing any more of my work, both this and other places that we visited are on the internet at my website, TravelnSketch.com. And actually what I mean to say is there's a button there that you can go to my gallery on Etsy to see some of the other work. Both ink line, black and white, and also the color renditions of those sketches that I've done both in California and also Europe. So visit my website, I'd appreciate that, and my art gallery. And there, of course, you'll also see a button that goes to my other vlogs if you haven't seen some of the other ones I've done on different areas. So this was a fun process to go through. And the next one that I'm going to be doing is on Salzburg. We had a wonderful visit in Salzburg, Austria, and I'll be anxious to both do the illustration for that, the ink line, and then also the color. So please join me on that, and to make it easier to be notified when that is up, it would be greatly appreciated if you were to subscribe to my channel. And there's no cost to it, and that way you'll be notified when it's up and running. So thanks again for watching this vlog, and have a great day.